Hi, I'm Min from PonderEd. Now I'm going into the actual methodology that if, as I mentioned previously for the introductions, background information, that if you adopt these methods and apply that, especially if you are students in the university, secondary, it doesn't really matter because this is methodology. Topic doesn't really matter, whatever you are studying. If you are able to use this, implant this methodology in your study, you will see your study is totally going into the different direction. Your concept, I don't say knowledge because knowledge is just to know and use it. If your concept will increase significantly, enormously, and you can even the exponentially increase, and then your brain is really working totally different way. Okay, let me start with this. Always, this is the rule number one. Start with the questions and end with the questions. Generally, general education field is something like this. You have knowledge. You learn gravity. Gravity is this. Okay, stops there. And then so what? And then you learn something new like a multiplication. This is how you do. Okay, that's it. That stops. As I mentioned in the background lectures, that this is like a driving in a traffic jam, make brain stressed and basically falling the brain apart unless the person enjoys learning the new knowledge and voluntarily seeking for the new knowledge constantly. But questions, when you open up the questions, with end with questions, somewhere down the road that you will see that because of the question, you will see that you can grab the information and then you can build the concept over this over this with these questions. So as many questions left in the brain, your brain will look for more concepts to build the concepts more and more. But as I once again, let me reiterate that questions are not all the same. There are differences, and there are specific question methodology that specific types of questions to make your brain constantly move forward to build the concept, and then build to think outside the box, to think creatively. Not all questions works in the same. So in the beginning, I'm gonna show you just one by one, but more likely this question about the question part is coming from level 2 training. So you will have to wait until because once the first level is done, I don't think I'll be able to really move on to the second level right away because my schedule is kind of tight at the moment. Now, before going into the building concept method, let's check the status of your brain, where you are. If your brain has tendency to think outside the box a little more, or if your brain has potential to think creatively, let's check that out. It's easier to check, okay? And I'm gonna apply the law of causation, the very simple and simplest the law of causation methodology into here. So basically the law of causation, the methodology, the methods, also this is methodology. It's not like something that some philosophy field are dealing with it. This is methodology. And this methodology is used throughout entire education method. And this is not the same as the one that I talk about as a level 4 training. Level 4 training is a little bit more different in the even though the name is same, the law of the causation. So first step is choose a topic and ask questions. Now topic you can choose from your choice. At this time and then it'll make a lot more effective if you have your own topic and then replace the topic in here. I chose water because this is the one simplest one that I can use and then simplify the methodology. So let's say water, and then you ask questions to define. This time the question is to define the knowledge. What is water? So not all any type of questions. Okay, so you have to ask specifically what is water, and then try to describe best answers from your brain about the this question. So let's say water is essential for the life forms, or water forms a lake, a river, a cloud, and something like that. Then once you are done here, then move on to the next. Generate set of questions. This has to be set. Okay. Here's the two different ones. A, water, and B, from the concepts of knowledge from the descriptions. Now using these two, do you generate questions like if A doesn't exist, would B exist? If B doesn't exist, would A exist? Something like that. Okay. So this here's an example, right here in below, right here. Okay. This always have to be set. There's a reason. I'm not gonna feel because this is gonna be dealt in the level 4 more details. So I'm not gonna deal more kind of all the details in here, but just simply to check. Now analyze it. Now, for example, let's say water can exist regardless of the existence of the lake. So answer is yes. And second, the life forms cannot exist without water, so answer is no. So if any of these questions, any of the statement is no, if any the answer says no, that means your question and your description is not matching. That means your brain is not ready to even think. If you have, let's say you tried 10 of these topics with these methods, and let's say you have like a 8 out of 2 or like a mismatch, then that means that your brain is not even ready to think outside the box. It's going to be very, very difficult for you to think something outside the box. And creative thinking will be almost impossible. I probably, my bet is that most of you probably falling into less than 30% that match. Many of you probably going into like almost 100% mismatch. It looks very simple, straightforward, but it will be very difficult. Okay, so this is why if you falling into mismatch more, if you are like more than 60-70% in mismatch, like a no is in the answers with this method, it means you really your brain is not really working in terms of thought processes. Basically, your brain is just simply learning and using the knowledge, even though you know a lot of them. So thought process based learning, the building concepts. Let me start with it. This is overall method is simple. Questions to make yourself to observe, describe what you observe, summarize the description, and on and on. Very simple. Now, there's a rule, how to deal with the topic. Okay, there's a certain rules that you need to apply, because once your brain started thinking, basically if your brain goes into the acceleration point, then you don't need you don't need to approach it this way. But in the beginning, this is you have to approach it in this way so that your brain can pick up one by one. This is like learning step by step. You are crawling first, and then standing up for second, and step by step walking and learning or running. Okay, so this this is like you can think of as a crawling steps. In this point, in this step, you have to choose a very simple topic. I'll give you an example soon. Okay, and you have to break down the compound words and topics containing more than one should be knowledge or concept. Then you have to avoid that. Okay, let me give you an example. For example, rain versus water. Okay, it looked like rain as a rain and water as a water, and then you think that this is a simple concept. Both are the same. Actually, it's not. Rain itself has, for example, it has to fall down to the ground. That means it has gravity is there. And it coming from the clouds, that means there's a condensation concept has to be there. And if we expand then, expand this concept, cloud had to be made from the somewhere in the ocean or lake, and it has to be transferred into the somewhere condensation. All these things totally complicated the concept built inside of it. If you choose rain, something like a topic like this, then you will end up just like, oh, I don't know where to go. Okay. So starting with using the water, just like this, it's very simplest one. And compounding words, you have to break it down. Hydropower, this is something, the two different words, biotechnology, microeconomics. So you have to break them. So hydro, water, power, separate, and later on you will see that how to merge them. And like these two words, heart attack or stock market, you have two different words. You have to break them, and then you have to find which one to start. There's a rule to choose which one to attack first. Okay. In case of a heart attack, attack itself cannot just stand by itself. It has to come with something else. In that case, the key word is heart. So you have to use heart first to explore. Then move on to the attack. Later on, merge them. You can see that what I mean by merging them in connecting concept. Okay, so you have to approach it that way. Now, let's actually move to the next step. Make questions. First is questions to define the topic. And to generate the questions, you have to change the question because defining the, let's say, what is water? And then except like for the drinking or essential for the life forms or for the forming the lake or something like that. With this, as I said, these are the descriptions to the questions to define the water, right? So you remember this, right? This is not. So we're using actually to define the topic or curiosity-based questions are very difficult to find the answer. So you have to change the question into different form to make yourself to observe using WH question and 5 senses that we can actually detect: see, smell, taste, hear, touch. Something like this. Make questions asking for define first, but generally this is difficult to find the answer. So you break it down to make yourself to define. For example, what do I taste when I drink water? I'm not going to read them all, okay? So you have to look through one by one. And I'm almost done with the booklet. So once this is uploaded onto the website, you can actually download it and then put it in your site, and you can use it as a reference and with your topic. Now, you have to evaluate the questions. Next step is evaluate the questions. If you have like a goals, usage, purpose in there, this is not the one that you want it to go. Because, you know, drinking water, what is water? And then you go like for drinking, this is purpose, goals, usage, right? So you need to remove them, okay? So you need to remove, and you have to stick with solely 5 senses to observe and WH questions, just strictly. Okay, now next step is you actually have to see or taste and detect with your 5 senses. And take a look at this water, what you see. Can you describe it? If you can describe it with the taste and these senses, then go ahead and describe them like this. You have questions to ask, make yourself observe, and you have answers to it. You describe yourself. Let's say water doesn't taste. I don't taste water, or something like that. Once you have all these descriptions that you made, next step is you just list them all and summarize them into one, like this. Simple, huh? Yeah. Now, next is, up to here is very straightforward. Next is, then you need to find a keyword. As I mentioned about the heart attack, attack is not the keyword. Hard is the keyword because our tag is dependent on, depending on the heart. Okay, so using this methodology, also that in this case you can use the law of causation, the method using the law of causation as well. The dependency, if a heart exists, then if heart doesn't exist, then heart attack or tag exists or something like that. You can just use it a little bit by modifying it a little bit. So you find keywords, right? Smell, color, and something like that, and you generate questions to define. What does it smell? What is taste? Something like that. And now, if you can describe it, either you learned from the school or you already had this before. About 3-4 years ago, when I asked my son that what is taste, and he was really able to describe, saying it something that I feel when I put food in my mouth. Or he was able to really describe at the time. He's 15 now and he's going into grade 10. So it's the brain power, like when you describe and observe and this build the concept and connecting concept, then these are the generally what it comes from. But sometimes you learn from the school as well. Let's say you have some idea about the taste, then you describe them just like here. If you have no idea what happens, then you go back and apply go back to the step and doing the same thing, repeat. So basically make questions asking for the definition to define the topic and to make observe yourself by using 5 senses and WH questions. And what you do, you describe them to each questions. So basically you can see them, right? You can actually describe it as much as you could. Once here, I ask you to describe as detailed as possible, and when you make the questions as detailed as possible, the reason is in the later on, this is the one that bring up the curiosity questions. So how detailed you could go will affect on the level 2 training. And then just the same thing, you are repeating, just merge them all into one and make a statement like this. So color is something that is visible when light and object are interacting, blah, blah, blah. Now, next. You have to use all the keywords, right? You have to find keywords like light and the red and green, and you just using the questions to define, you have to repeat them until you cannot do anymore. You have to do everything. This is why this is called building concept. Let's assume that I'm gonna leave it for those parts for yours. And let's get back to the original topic. So now you started with main topic, which is water, and then you have description from your the cycle, and you have one that you already have, the description one you already have. You have third one right here that you use another concept building cycle and you made. Then what you do, next step, you merge them all into this. You are just simply replacing color or taste with the ones that you find, and then you merge them. Here I ask you to merge and then try to put it into the writing. This is there's one of the reason. The reasons are simple. First of all, for your life, when you're living, especially if you're a student, then your life will be full of discussion and explain your idea to others. Even when you're negotiating, when you're dealing with the customers, when you're dealing with people inside of your work environment, people in the work, and wherever you go, and even family members, that what you will do is what you're gonna do is for the entire life, you need to explain your idea for others so that they can understand what you're thinking. Well, sometimes Actually, this is another set of my education, which is, I call it wisdom building method. This is different. This is the thought process based education is the first half. There's a second half, and even this first half, the bigger one is a thought process in the education has two different sets. There are 4 different levels, but by repeating it with applying to different topics, there's 2 different sets. So this is you can think of like a interior process of the levels is like about around like 16 of them, and this is one of the one level 1 training out of 16. So I'm not gonna I didn't mention it because it gets more complicated, but there is a because of the topic differences in the topic, it has to be dealt in a separate way. I'm not going to be able to provide all these methodology. I'm going to provide a basic course on it, and then I'm going to provide some supplement in one by one in different ways. But well, because simply that's too much to deal in the methodology wise. Okay, but you will see once in a while with a different like a teaching methodology or some supplement methodology that I upload, like a 10-minute, 15-minute videos. Anyway, so basically this is how you train yourself to describe and explain your ideas. And if I more likely recommend you to put it into a writing, because if you are heavily involved in the presentation, let's say in the workplaces, or if you are writing, if you are required to write something like a report or like a project and then into the writings, then this skill is really one thing that you require. And then you have to do it without any plagiarism issues or anything like a similarity issues. So I really recommend for you to really train in this way. Summarize and make it smooth reading, reasonable readings by combining them together. So this is a foundation of how to connect them together into smooth readings. Now, once you are done with it, you probably think that this is not enough. Out there are more information. Yes, now you have to use literature. But you are not just taking the knowledge. Taking knowledge is repeating the knowledge is like a parrot repeating after a human. Okay, you have to digest it and build the concept from the literature. Okay. How to do it? First of all, and you find any literature. I use Wikipedia once again because copyright issues. I don't really know that any dictionary has how do I really use the copyrighted material. So I just simply, because Wikipedia stated as long as I put where it is, where it's from, everything can be usable, and I can use it for my work as well. So I'm using Wikipedia. That's the only reason. You don't have to use it. And in Wikipedia, sometimes the information is not 100% accurate. It's better to use textbook if you want to use it. Okay. So what you need to do, you have your statement and you have references. Compare them and find the differences and list them. Okay. And what you do, simply you have to generate questions to define each of them. And I'm gonna show you just with one example. With this, let's say fluid. You have some idea what is fluid. Okay, then state them as detailed as possible. Don't look up the dictionaries. This is something that you have to your brain has to bring it out. If it is from the dictionaries, you have to go back to actually this side. Okay, so it shouldn't be coming from the dictionary. It should have came from your brain. And what you need to do is you need to go repeat from step 1 again, like this. You use a reference and you ask from the question, what is the oxygen? You find it out, and if you don't know what this chemical element is, and basically ideally what you need to do is you need to break this and then separate it, dealing with it. But I'm trying to show you that how to do it. I'm not gonna going into that details. So and let's say you look for the chemical elements, and then you ended up like there is some set of the statement, and you ask another one, and then you have another statement coming in, digging in and in and in until you can you can process further, you can move forward. Okay. Next, now once you are done, you have to merge them backward. All okay, and you need to make the statement to describe the group based on what is oxygen to answer the question. Okay, so you have to merge them. As I said, you have to be as detailed as possible and practice in the writing, also describing it, also presentation. So you have to think about this as a presentation and writing. Now, once you have them merged, then you have two different sets. Fluid part, which came from your brain, and another one that from the reference, digesting references. So you build concepts from the references, and what you need to do, you need to merge back into original topic. So something like that. This here, I'll let you read about it. Okay. So now, in this way, you can build concepts more and more.